The sun was shining, birds were singing. It was a beautiful day in the small town of Willow Creek.
Excitedly, I love to ride my bike.
Emma hopped onto her bike. She rode down her street, smiling at her neighbors and waving to her friends. The wind blew through her hair. It was the perfect start to her day.
Cheerfully. Good morning, Emma.
Emma decided to take a different route that day. She wanted to explore a path she had never been on before. It was a dirt road that led to a small creek. Emma was excited to see where it would take her. As Emma rode, she saw something in the distance. It was lying by the side of the road. At first, she thought it was a pile of leaves. But as she got closer, she realized it was a small animal.
Concerned, oh no, it's a puppy.
Emma stopped her bike and got off. She slowly approached the animal. The puppy was lying very still. Emma could tell that it was hurt.
Worried, what if it's too late? I have to help the puppy, but what can I do?
Emma carefully picked up the puppy. It was so tiny and light. She could feel its heart beating faintly. Emma knew she had to get the puppy help, and fast.
Determined. Hang in there, little guy.
She gently placed the puppy in the basket of her bike. Then, Emma jumped back on and started pedaling as fast as she could. She raced back towards town, her heart pounding with worry and hope.
Anxiously, Dr. Green's animal clinic. He'll know what to do.
Emma knew just the place to take the puppy. Dr. Green's animal clinic. Dr. Green was the kindest vet in town. He helped all kinds of animals. Emma was sure he could help the puppy too. Emma burst through the doors of the clinic.
Panicked. Dr. Green, Dr. Green!
Concerned. What's wrong, Emma?
Emma showed him the puppy in the basket. Dr. Green gently examined the puppy. He cleaned its wound and gave it some medicine.
Reassuring he's going to be okay. He just needs some rest and lots of love.
Emma was so relieved. She thanked Dr. Green over and over again.
Grateful, thank you so much, Dr. Green. Can I stay with him while he rests?
Kindly, that would be a great help. You can even help feed him some milk from a tiny bottle.
That's when Emma decided to name him Max.
Lovingly. Welcome to the family, Max.
Emma visited Max at the clinic every day after school. She would sit with him for hours, talking to him and stroking his soft fur.
Hey, Max, I'm here again. I missed you so much today.
Max seemed to love having Emma around. He would wag his tail weakly and lick her hand whenever she was near.
You're getting stronger, aren't you, boy? Just hang in there a little longer.
After a week, Dr. Green said that Max was strong enough to go home with Emma.
Oh my gosh, really? I can't wait to take you home, Max.
Emma was so excited to finally be able to take Max home. She promised Dr. Green that she would take good care of him.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I promise I'll take really good care of Max.
Emma's parents were a little hesitant at first. They weren't sure about having a dog, but Emma promised to be responsible for Max.
Mom, Dad, I'll feed him, walk him, and clean up after him. I promise. I'll even use my allowance to help pay for his food and toys.
Emma's parents looked at each other and then at Emma, seeing the determination in her eyes. Finally, they agreed. Emma was overjoyed. She knew that Max was not just a pet, but a friend who needed her just as much as she needed him. At first, Max was a little scared in his new home. He would cower in the corner of Emma's room, but Emma was patient. She spent hours sitting with him, talking to him in a soft voice. She gave him treats and toys. Slowly but surely, Max started to come out of his shell.
It's okay, Max. You're safe here.
He began to wag his tail whenever Emma entered the room. He would even let her pick him up and cuddle him. One day, Emma was playing with Max in the backyard. She threw a ball, and Max ran to get it. It was the first time he had ever played fetch. Emma was so happy to see him running and playing like a normal puppy.
Good boy, Max. You're doing so great.
As Max grew bigger and stronger, he and Emma became inseparable. They went everywhere together. They went for walks in the park, played fetch in the backyard, and even went on bike rides together, with Max running alongside. Emma loved teaching Max tricks.
Sit, Max. Good boy. Now shake.
He learned how to sit, stay, and shake his paw. He even learned how to roll over. Emma was so proud of Max. He was the smartest dog she knew. Emma and Max had so many adventures together. They went hiking in the woods, swam in the lake, and even went camping with Emma's family. No matter what they were doing, Emma and Max always had fun together.
You're the best adventure buddy, Max.
Having Max in her life changed Emma in so many ways. She learned the importance of kindness, compassion, and responsibility. She learned that even the smallest act of kindness can make a big difference in the world. Max also helped Emma to be more courageous. Before she found Max, Emma was shy and timid, but taking care of Max taught her to be brave and to stand up for what she believed in.
Thank you, Max, for making me brave.
Most importantly, Max taught Emma the true meaning of love. Max loved Emma unconditionally, no matter what. He was always there for her, to greet her with a wagging tail and a sloppy kiss.
I love you so much, Max.
Emma knew that she and Max would be best friends forever. They had a bond that was unbreakable. They had been through so much together, and their love for each other only grew stronger with each passing day. Emma was so grateful that she had found Max that day on the road. He was more than just her pet. He was her best friend, her confidant, and her furry little soulmate.
I don't know what I would do without you, Max.
Emma knew that she would love Max forever, and she knew that Max would love her right back, always and forever.
Forever and always, Max. Forever and always.
Emma and Max were the best of friends. From the moment Max bounded into her life, a clumsy golden puppy, they were inseparable. He was her confidant, her partner in crime, her furry shadow. They were two peas in a pod, their hearts beating in tandem. Emma shared all her secrets with Max. She whispered stories into his soft ears as they lay nestled together. He, in turn, offered her a warm, wet nose and a heart full of unconditional love. Their bond was something special, a language only they understood. Their days were filled with laughter and adventure. Emma and Max chased butterflies in fields of wildflowers, their joyous shrieks echoing through the summer air. They splashed in puddles on rainy days, mud splattering their faces and turning their joy into something messy and real. When the days grew short and the air turned crisp, Emma and Max would snuggle by the fireplace. She would read aloud from her favorite books, her voice a soothing melody against the crackling fire. Max would lie with his head on her lap, his tail thumping softly against the floor. As the seasons changed, so did Emma and Max. They grew taller, stronger, their bond deepening with each passing day. Spring brought with it the joy of new beginnings, and they rolled in the grass, drunk on the scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers. Summer meant lazy afternoons spent swimming in the lake, their laughter echoing across the water. Autumn painted the leaves in vibrant hues of red and gold, and they crunched through piles of fallen leaves, their happiness as boundless as the sky above. One day, Emma's parents sat her down. Their faces were serious, their voices heavy with a sadness that sent a shiver down Emma's spine. They told her they were moving far away to a place where dogs weren't allowed. Emma's world crumbled around her. Moving had always seemed like something that happened to other people, not to her, and certainly not to her and Max. "What about Max?" she whispered, her voice choked with tears. The day of the move arrived too soon. Emma hugged Max tightly, burying her face in his fur. She could smell the familiar scent of sunshine and earth, the scent that always clung to him after their adventures. "I promise I'll come back for you," she sobbed, her words muffled against his fur. Max whined softly, licking away her tears with his warm, rough tongue. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the sorrow in her voice. Emma had to be pulled away from Max, her cries of protest echoing in the air long after the car had pulled away. As they drove, she pressed her face against the window, her eyes searching for one last glimpse of her beloved friend. Max stood at the edge of the yard, watching the car disappear. He whined again, a mournful sound that spoke of loyalty and longing. He didn't understand why Emma was leaving, but he knew that a part of him was missing, a part that he might never get back. Emma's new home felt cold and empty without Max. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of his absence. Her room, once filled with their shared laughter and whispered secrets, now felt cavernous and lonely. She wrote to Max every day, pouring her heart out onto the pages. She told him about her new school, her new friends, but none of it felt real. None of it felt right without Max by her side. The weeks turned into months, and the letters from Emma stopped coming. Max, his fur now streaked with silver, still waited. He waited for the familiar sound of her laughter, for the feel of her hand ruffling his fur. He waited for the day she would keep her promise, the promise that echoed in his heart long after her scent had faded from their favorite spots in the yard. But promises, even those made with the purest of intentions, can be broken, leaving behind a trail of silent heartbreak. Emma never forgot Max. The memory of their friendship, their unbreakable bond, stayed with her, a bittersweet ache in her heart. She learned that sometimes love means letting go, even when it hurts. And Max, in his own way, understood. He lived out his days surrounded by the family that had taken him in, loved him, and cared for him. But a part of him, a small, quiet part, would always belong to the little girl who had loved him first, the girl who had promised to return. Their story, though touched by sadness, was a testament to the enduring power of love, loss, and the indelible mark that a true friend can leave on our hearts. The greyhound sighed, brakes hissing. The sound was almost a relief, a signal that the long journey was finally over. Emma stepped off the bus. The air hung heavy, thick with humidity and the scent of pine needles. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar yet distant aroma fill her lungs. It was the same smell from her childhood. 8 years had passed since she'd breathed it in. 8 long years filled with city smog and the hustle and bustle of urban life. 8 years since she'd called this place home. The town looked almost frozen in time, as if it had been waiting for her return.
The bus rumbled away, leaving me on the dusty shoulder. I watched it disappear into the horizon, feeling a mix of relief and trepidation. I watched it go, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. What awaited me here? Would the town welcome me back, or had it moved on without me? The town square was just ahead. It looked smaller than I remembered. The building seemed to have shrunk, or maybe it was just my perspective that had changed. Or maybe I was just bigger, hardened by the city. The experiences I had, the people I met, they all shaped me into someone new, someone different.
Emma adjusted the strap of her duffel bag. It was heavy, filled with the essentials she thought she'd need for this new chapter of her life. It dug into her shoulder, a weight that mirrored the one in her heart. The physical burden was nothing compared to the emotional one she carried. This town held her past. It held her memories. Every corner, every street had a story, a piece of her history, and now it held her future too. A future she wasn't sure she was ready for. But ready or not, it was here, waiting for her to take the first step. The town square was quiet, almost eerily so, as if the very air held its breath in anticipation. A few shops lined the street, their awnings faded and worn, bearing the weight of countless seasons. The bakery where she used to buy donuts with her mom was gone, its windows now dark and empty, replaced by a cell phone store, a stark reminder of how time marches on, indifferent to the past. Progress, they called it. But to Emma, progress felt like loss, a slow erasure of the world she once knew.
She walked past the old movie theater, its once vibrant facade now a shadow of its former self. The marquee was empty, the paint peeling, a silent testament to the passage of time. They used to sneak in on Saturdays, sharing a bucket of popcorn and laughing at the absurdity of it all. Max would pretend to hate the romantic comedies, rolling his eyes dramatically, but she knew he secretly loved them, his laughter betraying his true feelings.
Emma paused, her breath catching in her throat as memories flooded back. Max. Even the thought of him sent a pang through her chest, a bittersweet ache that never truly faded. His name was a whisper in the wind, a ghost that haunted the corners of her mind, ever present yet just out of reach. Every corner held a memory, every brick held a story. each one a fragment of a life she once lived. But the stories weren't hers anymore. She was a stranger here, a visitor in a place that had moved on without her. A familiar stranger returning to a place that no longer recognized her, where the echoes of the past mingled with the silence of the present. The phone call had come a month ago, her aunt's voice tight with worry, telling her about her mother's diagnosis. The word cancer hung in the air, heavy and cold. Suddenly, the city felt a million miles away.
Leaving her job had been easy. Leaving her life, harder. But her mother needed her, and I couldn't bear the thought of not being there. Not again.
Guilt gnawed at her. Years of chasing dreams in the city, while her mother lived here alone. Years of missed phone calls and empty promises to visit. Now, time was running out, and all Emma had were regrets. The house stood at the end of a tree-lined street, the same faded blue paint, the same crooked mailbox. But the lawn was overgrown, the flower beds bare. A pang of sadness squeezed her heart.
As she pushed open the creaking screen door, a familiar scent enveloped her. Lavender and vanilla, her mother's perfume. It was faint, but it clung to the air, a ghost of a memory. Tears welled in my eyes.
She found her mother in the living room. She was thinner than Emma remembered. Her face, once full of life, now pale and drawn. But her eyes, when they met Emma's, still held a spark of recognition and love. The days fell into a routine. Doctor's appointments, medication schedules, endless cups of chamomile tea.
I read to her, sang her old songs, and held her hand when the pain became too much. I cooked, cleaned, and helped her bathe.
There were moments of grace, shared laughter, reminiscing about old times.
I learned things I never knew about her life, secrets whispered in the quiet moments between darkness and dawn.
But exhaustion clung to Emma like a shroud. The constant worry, the lack of sleep, the emotional toll of watching her mother fade.
The city felt like a lifetime ago. My own dreams, a distant echo.
Sometimes late at night, when her mother was asleep, Emma would take out an old shoebox. It was filled with mementos from her past. Photographs, letters, a dried corsage from the senior prom.
And then there was Max. His face smiling up at me from a faded Polaroid. We were so young then, so full of hope. He was my first love, my confidant, my best friend. Until he wasn't.
The memory of their last fight, harsh words spoken in anger, still stung. Then he was gone, out of her life as quickly as he'd entered it. She'd heard he'd left town, never looked back, just like she had.
Do you ever think about him?
About Max?
Her mother nodded, a knowing smile on her lips.
Some loves stay with you, Emma, no matter how far you run.
The weeks turned into months. Emma's world shrank to the four walls of their home. The city, her life there, felt like a distant dream. And yet, sometimes she could almost hear its siren call.
I knew I couldn't stay here forever. But the thought of leaving again, this time without my mother, filled me with a deep ache. It was a constant push and pull. A battle between letting go and holding on.
It's okay to be happy, Emma. Don't let fear hold you back. Not anymore. Narrator, media group, elderly woman holding hands with a younger woman, a tender moment between a mother and daughter at home. Stock distribute equally. One evening, as she was tucking her mother into bed, her mother reached out and took her hand.
The first rays of dawn painted the sky a soft pink, casting a gentle glow over the horizon. It was a new beginning, a fresh start, and the promise of a day filled with endless possibilities. The soft hues of pink and orange blended seamlessly, creating a masterpiece that only nature could paint. The air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of dew-kissed grass and blooming flowers. It was a moment of tranquility, a brief pause before the world awakened. Emma stood on the porch, breathing in the crisp morning air. She felt the cool breeze against her skin, a gentle reminder that she was alive and present in this moment. The world was quiet, save for the soft rustling of leaves and the distant call of a bird. She closed her eyes, savoring the peace that the early morning brought. It was in these quiet moments that she found solace, a brief respite from the chaos of life. The town was still asleep, but she could almost hear it waking up. The streets were empty, the houses silent, but there was a sense of anticipation in the air. It was as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for the day to begin. She could imagine the sounds that would soon fill the air, the laughter of children, the hum of cars, the chatter of neighbors. It was a symphony of life, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The birds chirping, the distant rumble of a truck, life going on. These sounds were a reminder that the world continued to turn, even in the face of loss and grief. They were a comfort, a sign that life persisted, no matter what. The morning was a canvas of sounds, each one adding to the tapestry of the day. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times there was always light, always hope.
My mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep a few weeks ago. It was a gentle departure, a quiet end to a life well lived. She had always been a source of strength and wisdom, a guiding light in my life. Her absence was a void that could never be filled, a loss that I would carry with me forever. But there was comfort in knowing that she had found peace, that she had left this world with grace and dignity. The grief was still raw, a dull ache in my chest. It was a constant companion, a shadow that followed me everywhere. There were moments when the pain was overwhelming, when the weight of loss threatened to crush me. But there were also moments of clarity, of understanding. Grief was a journey, a process that took time. It was a testament to the love I had for my mother, a reflection of the bond we shared. But there was a sense of peace too, a sense of closure. It was as if the dawn had brought with it a new beginning, a chance to heal and move forward. The sunrise was a symbol of hope, a reminder that life went on. It was a promise of better days, of new opportunities. It was a chance to start over, to build a future that honored my mother's memory. I knew I couldn't stay in this town forever. It was a place filled with memories, both good and bad. It was a part of my past, but it wasn't my future. I needed to move on, to find my own path. It was a difficult decision, but it was the right one. I needed to honor my mother's legacy by living my life to the fullest, by embracing the opportunities that lay ahead. But I wasn't the same naive girl who had left all those years ago. I had grown. I had changed. I was stronger, more resilient. I had faced challenges and overcome them. I had learned to appreciate the small moments, the simple joys. I had learned to find strength in vulnerability, to find beauty in imperfection. I was ready to face the future, whatever it might hold. I carried my mother's love with me, my memories. They were a source of comfort, a reminder of where I came from. They were a part of me, a part of my story. They gave me strength, they gave me hope. They were a reminder that I was never truly alone, that my mother was always with me, in spirit if not in body. And maybe, just maybe, a flicker of hope for a future I hadn't dared to dream of before. It was a future filled with possibilities, with new beginnings. It was a future that held promise, that held hope. It was a future that I was ready to embrace, with all its uncertainties and challenges. It was a future that I was ready to build, one step at a time. A future that might just include a bridge, a river, and a ghost from the past. It was a future that was waiting for me, a future that I was ready to claim. It was a new dawn, a new beginning, and I was ready to face it, with all the strength and courage that my mother had instilled in me. It was a journey that I was ready to embark on, a journey that held the promise of a brighter tomorrow.
One night, Emma needed air. She needed to escape the weight of her responsibilities, if only for a moment. So she walked to the park. The night was quiet, but the shadows grew darker. Two men appeared out of nowhere, their intentions clear. They demanded her purse. "Give it to us," one snarled. Emma froze, heart racing. "Please, I don't have much." But their hands were already on her. She struggled, but they were stronger. She screamed for help, but there was no one to hear. And there he was, Max. Her Max. After all these years, he found her. The dog she had saved, the dog she had promised to return to. He was older now, his fur graying, but those eyes still held the same love, the same loyalty. Max sniffed her hand, then licked her face. Emma's heart shattered as she whispered, "Max, is it really you?" And in that moment, time stood still. The world fell away, and all that remained was the bond between them, the bond that had never truly broken. Emma's car rumbled down the old dirt road. Dust swirled in its wake. She was almost home. Her heart ached with a mix of guilt and anticipation. Guilt for being away so long. Anticipation for seeing Max again. Max, her sweet, loyal dog. Emma pulled into the driveway. The house stood silent, shrouded in the afternoon shadows. She stepped out of the car, her heart pounding.
Max, Max, I'm home!
There was no bark, no happy scramble of paws. Emma's heart sank. Had something happened to Max while she was gone? Fear tightened its grip on her chest. Just then, her neighbor, Mr. Emma's gaze darted to the porch. There, curled up on the welcome mat, was Max. He looked smaller somehow, more fragile, but his eyes held the same unwavering love and devotion she remembered.
Every day, rain or shine, that dog sat right there waiting for you. Loyal as the day is long, that one.
Emma's throat tightened. She struggled to swallow past the lump forming there. Rain or shine, every day. The weight of Max's devotion pressed down on her, heavy and humbling. She remembered the day she had left, the rushed goodbye, the empty promises of a quick return. Guilt washed over her, cold and sharp. Had she betrayed Max's unwavering trust? Mr. Jenkins's words echoed in Emma's ears as she sank to her knees before Max. Memories flooded her mind, each one a testament to Max's steadfast loyalty. She saw Max patiently waiting by the door each morning, his tail thumping a happy rhythm against the floor. She saw him curled up at her feet as she worked, a comforting presence in her solitude. She saw him braving the pouring rain, his small body shivering, yet refusing to leave his post by the window. Waiting, always waiting, for her. And she saw him now, his eyes shining with a love so pure, so unconditional, it brought tears to her eyes. Emma choked back a sob. Her absence, her neglect, suddenly felt unbearable. How could she have been so blind to the depth of Max's devotion? How could she have prioritized her own needs above his unwavering love? She reached out a trembling hand, hesitantly stroking Max's matted fur. He leaned into her touch, a soft whimper escaping his throat.
Oh, Max, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
In that moment, she vowed to make things right, to never again take Max's love for granted, to cherish the precious bond they shared. Max licked her hand, his warm tongue a balm to her aching heart. It was as if he understood her regret, her promise to do better, and in his eyes she saw forgiveness, unconditional, unwavering forgiveness.
I'm here now.
Emma wrapped her arms around Max, holding him close.
And I'm not leaving again, I promise.
Max snuggled closer, his small body trembling with happiness. He had missed her, he had waited for her, and now she was finally home. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. It was a new beginning, a chance for Emma to prove her love, her loyalty to the one who had never wavered in his. As darkness enveloped the porch, Emma carried Max inside. He was lighter than she remembered, his bones a little more prominent, but his spirit, his love for her, burned as bright as ever.
Come on, Max, let's get you settled.
She settled him on his favorite blanket near the fireplace. The familiar scent, the warmth of the fire seemed to soothe him. He closed his eyes, a contented sigh escaping his lips. Emma watched him, her heart filled with a love so profound it brought tears to her eyes. She had been so caught up in her own life, she had almost lost sight of what truly mattered.
You've always known the way, haven't you, Max?
But Max, with his unwavering loyalty and unconditional love, had shown her the way back. He had reminded her of the simple yet profound beauty of companionship, of the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog. The night was long, filled with the soft sounds of Max's breathing and the crackling fire. Emma didn't sleep. She didn't want to miss a single moment of this reunion. She watched as Max slept, his small chest rising and falling with each breath. She ran her fingers through his fur, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath her touch. And as she did, a sense of peace settled over her, a peace she hadn't realized she was missing, a peace that came from knowing she was exactly where she was supposed to be, with Max.
This is where we belong, Max. Together.
The weight of regret still lingered, but it was slowly being replaced by a renewed sense of hope. A hope for a future filled with long walks, cozy evenings by the fire, and a love that knew no bounds. Dawn broke, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and gold. Emma woke to the feel of Max's wet nose nudging her hand. He looked up at her with those big, expressive eyes, his tail thumping softly against the floor.
Good morning, my friend.
Emma whispered, a smile spreading across her face. She felt lighter, freer than she had in a long time. They stepped out into the crisp morning air, the sun warm on their faces. The world seemed new, washed clean by the night's rain. Max trotted happily beside her, his tail wagging furiously.
Let's go for a walk, Max.
They walked for hours, their footsteps the only sound in the quiet woods. With each step, Emma felt the last vestiges of her regret melt away, replaced by a deep sense of gratitude.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for everything.
As they made their way back home, Emma made a silent promise to Max. She would never again take their bond for granted. She would cherish every moment, every tail wag, every happy bark.
I promise, Max, I'll never forget.
Because Max, in his own quiet way, had shown her the true meaning of loyalty, of unconditional love. He had taught her that sometimes the greatest adventures are found not in far-off lands, but in the quiet moments shared with those we love most. And as they walked through the door, Emma knew that they weren't just coming home. They were coming home to each other. And that, she realized, was all that truly mattered.
We're home, Max. We're finally home.